All right. So good morning. We're going to start and call this meeting of the House and Labor Industry Committee to order. Jonathan, please take the roll.
Dawkins,
Here.
Brennan,
Here by designation.
Donahue, Jarrell, Green,
Here by designation.
Haddock,
Here.
Kincaid,
Here by designation.
Krajewski,
Here by designation.
Mursky,
Here by designation.
Miller, O'Mara,
Here by designation.
Scott,
Here by designation.
Siegel,
Here by designation.
Young,
Here by designation.
Grove,
Here.
Anderson, Berger, Bernstein,
Here by designation.
Cooper, Diorsi, Ecker,
Here by designation.
Fink,
Here by designation.
Gleim, Jones,
Here by designation.
Reichert,
Here by designation.
Rossi.
Here by designation.
We have a quorum.
Okay, perfect. All right, first one of today's agenda, I would like to call up House Resolution 97, printer's number 827, sponsored by Representative Rusnook. And we're going to make a motion with Representative Jarrell and second by Representative Miller. Ryan, please explain the resolution.
House Resolution 97, printers number 827, would recognize the week of May 4th, 2025 as Career and Technology Week, as well as recognize the day of May 7th, 2025 as National Skilled Trades Day.
Thank you. So we're going to move on because the representative's not here to make any comments on the resolution. So is there a motion to report out House Resolution 97, motion made by Representative Jarrell, second by Representative Donahue. And on to the resolution, I now turn it over to the minority chair.
Thank you. We'll have 2 no votes on the resolution. Representative Barger, Representative Fink. Rest of Republicans will be listed in the affirmative. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So I'll just make a brief comment. I just want to thank the member for the resolution and recognize the value and importance of the career and technical education, skilled trades provided by countless Pennsylvanians with rewarding, family-sustaining jobs. And obviously, I'll urge all members to support the resolution. Democrats will vote on in affirmative, and we will note the 2 noes for the record, Jonathan. So the resolution 97 is reported as committed from the House and Labor and Industry Committee. Next, I would like to call up House Bill 721, printers number 742, sponsored by Representative Donahue. We have a motion made by Representative Miller and second by Representative Gerard. Ryan, please explain the bill.
House Bill 721, printers number 742, updates Act 72 of 2010, the Construction Workplace Misclassification Act, by providing new definitions, updating enforcement procedures, grading and penalties, providing investigation and prosecution powers to the Attorney General, permitting private rights of actions for misclassified workers, and modernizing prohibited forms of retaliation.
Thank you very much. I would now like to recognize the prime sponsor of House Bill 721, Representative Donahue, to make brief remarks on his legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation, House Bill 721, strengthens and improves Pennsylvania's Construction Workplace Misclassification Act to combat worker misclassification. Employees who are classified as independent contractors are robbed of important workplace benefits and protections, including unemployment and workers' compensation. The Joint Task Force on Misclassification of Employees, established by Act 85 of 2020, was explicitly charged with investigating the practice of employee misclassification occurring within the Commonwealth. According to the task force, in 2021, nearly 11,000 misclassified employees suffered injury or illness at work, but were denied workers' compensation. Additionally, $91 million in revenue was lost to the Unemployment Compensation Trust Fund due to worker misclassification. House Bill 721 strengthens existing law by implementing several of the unanimous recommendations made by the task force. The bill increases penalties on contractors who misclassify employees, empowers the Attorney General to investigate and prosecute worker misclassification, and provides misclassified employees with an avenue to pursue justice. House Bill 721 will prevent the continued exploitation of our workers through misclassification and strengthen our state law to protect workers in Pennsylvania's construction industry. I ask all members for an affirmative vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Chairman Grove will be offering amendment A00298. Andrew, please explain the amendment.
Amendment A00298 by Chairman Grove is a got and replace amendment to repeal Act 72 of 2010, known as the Construction Workplace Misclassification Act.
Thank you very much. So Representative Gleim is making make the motion to adopt the amendment, and second by Representative Barger. Is there any discussion on the amendment? I now recognize Chairman Grove.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, this actually law came into effect when I was a freshman here in the House in the minority, and way back in the day in 2009. I feel like the old head around here anymore. My length of service. You know, this legislation inherently, the underlying law, inherently wanted to address businesses who would hire or try to shift employees over to the 1099, basically a individual who has their own business and contracts with a business to provide services. To date, we have seen the Department of Labor and Industry utilize these laws to go after small business, repeatedly adding cost and burdens and making Pennsylvania really not competitive compared to a lot of other states. You know, down in Maryland, just this week, the General Assembly signed and the governor signing into law massive tax increases on businesses. They have a sales tax. They had a massive gross receipts tax, tax on tires, a lot of anti-business. We should be getting those businesses. But when those businesses down in Maryland see legislation like this moving through to go after business, to penalize it, to criminalize businesses, they walk away. And they head to every other state besides Pennsylvania. We should be reaping the benefits of those poor decisions in other states, New Jersey, New York. They're not coming to Pennsylvania. They're going to Ohio. They're going to West Virginia. They're going to North Carolina. They're going to South Carolina. You know, Representative Jones does it always, you know. Our population is growing older. We're not adding new businesses. We're not adding entrepreneurship. It's legislation like this that creates that environment of layer upon layer upon layer of government. Now, we're here April 9th. This committee has moved a lot of legislation, busy. I appreciate the busyness. We got a hard worker here in the chairman, driving us crazy, right? But we appreciate his work ethic. But the legislation coming out of this committee is about growing government, expanding government. None of these bills are going to grow entrepreneurship. None of these businesses are going to, or none of this legislation is going to grow our economy. They add taxes, they add complication, and ultimately the underlying bill literally starts criminalizing businesses, allowing the Attorney General, weaponizing the Attorney General's office to go after private business, weaponizing the L&I even further to go after private business. This isn't about compliance and trying to help businesses comply with the law. This is about adding costs to our corrections department. This is about adding massive new powers and expansion of government into state agencies across the board. Even the recommendations from the Joint Task Force, the underlying bill cherry-picked which recommendations and add a bunch of recommendations that weren't even in the report. So you can't even say this is a bipartisan or a unanimous consent of that task force because they completely ignored provisions that task force agreed upon through the negotiation and through their work product. So that's where we came back to let's just repeal it and start over. Let's have the discussion about how we can walk and chew gum at the same time. How do we ensure misclassification doesn't happen, but in a way that doesn't criminalize the backbone of our economy, small businesses? This is really what it does. Listen, the big corporations aren't going to get pulled into this. They'll just hire more compliance officers, spend the money. This is really going to hurt our smallest of businesses each and every day. The guy that went to a trade school, that worked for a living, that wanted to start his own business. This goes after him. This criminalizes that individual who's just trying to achieve the American dream. That's what this bill does. I think it's wrong. I think it's the wrong direction. I don't think we as a General Assembly should be weaponizing Attorney General's offices and labor and industry departments to go after and criminalize small businesses who are just trying to comply with a massive complexity of regulations and laws. The more you put on them, the more they will fail and the more they will end up in jail. And it's wrong. So we're offering a repeal to start. Do it right amount of regulation, right amount of government layers, that we don't continue to blow up our budget, adding layer upon layer of new bureaucracy. I mean, if we're hiring union workers in the state government, this is great. We're just going to add more workers to try to get compliance. And we're going to increase costs. And we're going to need more tax increases to fund that at a point when we are facing a massive deficit and no ability to pay for that spending. So I would urge our members to vote yes. Let's start with a clean slate, and I think we can get to a spot where everybody can agree to. The Joint Task Force had some recommendations. Let's start there and work towards something that can work for everybody and not add more costs to our already ever-increasing corrections budget. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Hedrick.
Yeah. I'd just like to clarify something the minority chairman mentioned, that when this act was passed, he was in the minority. But in 2009, I would like to remind everybody that the Senate of Pennsylvania, the majority party was Republican. So this act was passed with a bipartisan split legislature. So this was a good piece of legislation that all parties agreed to. And then I find it rich that somebody mentions today of all times taxes in another state, when we all know tariffs is just another word for tax. Look what's going on in the federal government and how much we're taxing our people here in the United States and across the world. And we're talking about taxes, but let's look at the stock market and see what happened with those taxes that are being done on the federal level. I just think it's ironic that we're talking about taxes here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Chairman.
Yeah, I just want to hit on tariffs real quick. You know, we've had a deficit on tariffs for numerous years. I mean, our trade deficit with China is horrendous with Canada. And that actually hurts our Americans, or just a mechanism to get individuals at the table and to promote United States jobs, bring manufacturing back. So there's going to be a little heartache and pain momentarily to get that done. But at the end of the day, like, if we can get our trade deficits under control, level it out, we're going to have more manufacturing, more jobs in this country. And, you know, Pennsylvania is a wonderful manufacturing state. It only adds benefit to the United States to make sure we have fair trade practices across the world. I mean, how many outsourced jobs went to China because of those trade deficits? It is cheaper to send our raw materials to China, manufacture, and bring it back because of those trade deficits. Why not have that conversation, bring them to the table, and make it better for U.S. manufacturing and make it better for Pennsylvania moving forward? And by the way, no one loses money if you don't actually take capital gains out of the stock market. So let it ride, baby.
All right, thank you. So this is why this committee is so important. Look, I always enjoy it, especially when you're armed with the facts. See, the one thing that the minority chairman neglected to mention is to give you the full picture. And what I mean by the full picture of misclassification and how it affects the average Pennsylvanian, it's around the wage theft piece of it. It's around using a system for the benefit of misleading an employee or a company down the wrong path. Let me give you an example. We're all okay, and I've heard this from the minority side for years, when it comes to deportation of undocumented individuals, lock them up, throw away the key. But when they work for one of the companies that profits in this country, that benefits a certain subsection of a sector, is we should not prosecute. We should not go that far. Let me be clear what the bill says. because the bill outlines exactly how these different penalties are imposed. The first penalty, if I'm not mistaken, is a third-degree misdemeanor as a warning to that business that says, hey, if you continue to go down this road and you become repeat offender, then that's going to obviously continue to grade up. Let me be clear. Pennsylvania is not the only state that has a misclassification penalty on its statute. Florida also has it, which last time I checked was a very, very Republican state. So there's not that it's a Democrat versus Republican. It was right versus wrong. What we're trying to accomplish here is to continue to have good actors in the space when we talk about contracting with employees. We know that 1099 employees do not receive the benefit of an actual W-2 employee. They do not get a health benefit. They do not get a severance benefit. They do not get paid time leave or any other benefits that an employee may actually experience. 1099 does not. What it also does is can potentially become a shelter for undocumented or illegals who potentially could be working in those jobs at very low wages and being taken advantage of. We want to kind of bring that to the light. And last I checked, this bill passed the House last session with 121 votes, which means it was a bipartisan product last session. It will be a bipartisan product this session. So we have to make sure that we are showing the full scope of what's going on. And to the minorities' comment around this idea of bringing back manufacturing to Pennsylvania and how tariffs, because if you don't sell, you won't lose. What about the Americans who do not own any stocks in the stock market? What happens to those folks who doesn't benefit from being able to hold out because they do not have enough money to meet the end of the month? What happens to those folks when they are reliant on supplies, medicine, and what have you from another country that we are over-tariffing? Those families will be the ones who suffer. So we should not be short-sighted in our actions as we go through this process. This is about good debate. This is about big ideas. We should not allow the rhetoric of our party spaces to get in the way of what we should be doing for the people of Pennsylvania. So I would obviously oppose this amendment simply because to say to do nothing and repeal the entire act and start over would imply that all the work that has happened up to this point was in vain. And I do not believe that we should take those steps backwards when we can build on what we have already accomplished and make it better. So for those reasons, I would urge members to oppose this amendment, which would repeal a vital law that protects construction workers from exploitation in the construction industry. And with that, Jonathan, I'm going to have you take the roll.
Dawkins.
No.
Brennan.
No, and all Democrats vote in the negative.
Grove.
Yes.
Anderson. Barger. Bernstein.
Designation, yes.
Cooper. Diorsi. Ecker.
Designation, yes.
Fink.
Designation, yes.
Gleim. Jones.
Designation, yes.
Reichard.
Designation, yes.
Rossi.
Designation, yes.
The amendment fails.
Thank you. I will now like to offer Amendment A00318. Ryan, please explain the amendment.
Amendment A00318 clarifies provisions related to the Act's enforcement and penalties for violations.
Thank you. Motion being adopted by Representative Haddock, second by Representative Young. Is there any discussion on the amendment? I now recognize the co-chair, Grove.
Thank you. Did you want to go over the?
Oh, we went over the amendment.
Okay, sorry. So right now under the law, specifically under Section 4E, a party that does not meet the definition of an employer in Section 2, but the word intentionally is put in there, as in an employer is intentionally violating the law. Like we knowingly know it and we're going out of our way to violate it. Intentionally is removed, will is removed, and will is amended to say is likely to. So if Department of Labor and Industry thinks, as an assumption, doesn't have proof, they can go after a private business. That language is, well, it's not good language for any business operating in the Commonwealth. Because if the Labor and Industry thinks, the Attorney General's office thinks, you can get prosecuted. You can get prosecuted. Paperwork error, because they think you're trying to, about working through, again, this is why businesses don't want to be, and people don't want to start up businesses in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's probably the highest level issue with the amendment. We have some other issues. And we're always looking to find that middle ground to where we can work in the same space together. This amendment doesn't, unfortunately, get us there. So I will be and urge my colleagues to vote no on the amendment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? All right. Seeing none, I will urge all members to support this clarifying amendment. Jonathan, please take the roll.
Dawkins,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes by designation. Yes by designation.
Donahue, Durall, Green,
Yes by designation.
Haddock, Kincaid,
Yes by designation.
Krajewski,
Yes by designation.
Mirsky, Miller, O'Mara,
Yes by designation.
Scott,
Yes by designation.
Siegel, Young, Grove,
No.
Anderson, Barger, Bernstein,
Designation, no.
Cooper, Diorsi, Ecker,
Designation, no.
Fink,
Designation, no.
Lime, Jones,
Designation, no.
Reichard,
Designation, no.
Rossi.
D-
The amendment passes.
She's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion, the report House Bill 721 is being made by Representative Mirsky and the second by Representative Siegel. Is there any discussion on the bill as amendment? Representative Gleim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The prime sponsor of the bill said earlier that House Bill 721 strengthens the existing law. And I would disagree with that statement. And I just want to stress, this is just my opinion, that the committee is where we get the policy correct before it goes to the full House and then to the Senate. So under paragraph 4 in the definition of debar, the provisions for what constitutes a successor entity are extremely broad to the point of being nonsensical. Under our business entity laws, Title 15, Corporations and Unincorporated Association, the term successor entity is defined twice in relation to the provisions for post-dissolution liabilities of a business corporation and a nonprofit corporation, respectively. The definition clearly indicates that a successor entity is a receivership or trust established to discharge the liabilities of a dissolved corporation and would not be a continuation of the business. Title 15 provides for a variety of entity transactions: merger, conversion, division, interest exchange, and domestication. And terms are defined for the resulting entities from those transactions. The way this bill provides for successor entities is all wrong. The bill uses a term in a context of continuing business operations when it is clearly the opposite of what the term means in Pennsylvania law. And there are several defined terms in Pennsylvania law that clearly speak to the continuity of business operations after an entity transaction, yet the bill uses none of these terms. So I would just ask the prime sponsor, can someone explain why none of our current provisions of law are used to describe what this bill incorrectly calls successor entities?
Thank you. So, what I would suggest, and this is why the beauty of this committee and the beauty of government, we don't profess to have all the answers, but we do profess that we have a process. So we have the ability to have amendments drafted to these bills that could be offered on the floor. So if you're willing to work with the prime sponsor to draft out language, I'm sure that will be encouraged.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Memory will have to serve me hopefully well here. But look, these some of us brought concerns about this effort 3 sessions ago or so, when everybody got together and said that we all agreed that misclassification of workers and wage theft was a problem in the Commonwealth. Some of us argued that we did not need to create a task force to address the obvious aspects. We were then assured by the then majority party that we did need the task force, and it had to go through the process. 4 or 5 years later, whatever it is, we are still here, all saying that misclassification is a problem, and to be honest, not hearing enough of a solution. You don't want to solve the problem, fine. I don't know why it take us 5 years to get to this point. I'm lost on that. If you don't want to solve it, don't. What I know is that when I go to trades, they continue to tell the same story that they've said. They said it in majority offices. They've said it in minority offices. They've said it in union meetings. They've said it on wage sites, work sites. They've said it everywhere across the board. That misclassification continues to be an issue here in Pennsylvania. Look, to me, with it, I'm still back to the position I had when we started this, which is we're moving too slow to solve a problem that we all seemingly said exists in Pennsylvania to the detriment of Pennsylvania workers. And in that time, nobody else comes up with a different pathway to solve the problem. Now, I'm not saying that God came down from the hill and said, here's the bill that we need. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is I'm tired of us not supporting Pennsylvania workers and acting as if, don't worry, we'll get it some other time. Trust us, we'll repeal the entirety of the bill, and then maybe we'll get that sort of divine intervention that will then tell us how best to do it, because this effort, while good, is not good enough. Look, the operating engineers, the laborers, sheet metal, IBW 5, 712, iron workers, everybody who's in this industry tells us the same story. Time and time, session and session, it's the same issue. So I'll look forward to the other option as to how to address misclassification. But I'm not holding my breath and telling the workers who are out there struggling to deal with wage theft, don't worry, it's coming. What's coming is a bill that came out of that task force that, thanks to this leadership and this majority, is going to continue to push forward with the hopes that we're going to continue to find bipartisan solutions to address a good chunk of the problem that this bill here, I believe, represents. So I'm excited to hopefully get it through this committee on a bipartisan vote. Love to get it through the House again on a bipartisan vote. And I want to go to the trades and the guys who are out there doing this work and to those Pennsylvania workers and say, we heard you, we got something done to help. That's what I think this does.
Thank you. Representative Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will point out that there's at least one person in this industry in the state of Pennsylvania who's not on board with that. And it's me. I was an independent contractor for many years, and it was that ability for me to earn extra money for my family was facilitated by just to point out, this was in a different state. It was very easy for contractors to hire us because we were flexible. We were less expensive overall. It enabled me to go out and work an extra 20 or 30 hours a week as an independent contractor to provide for my family. It was necessary. It was important. It helped us out. And I think that there's something that Chairman Grove pointed out that is really, I think, important to underscore here, and that is when we change the standard to if there's a suspicion that this might be a violation, we're coming after you. When I read the current law and it says that to be an independent contractor, I must be free from control or direction over the performance of work under contract. I have never been in a work site as an independent contractor where I was 100% free from control or direction over the performance of my work. Regularly, I was directed, hey, today we're going to do this. Oh, today we need to move you over here because the plumbers have to come in. That's direction. And if we make it more difficult for people to hire guys like me, because now they have to look at a law and say, oh my goodness, if I'm even suspected of giving direction to an independent contractor that I've hired, suddenly I become too risky to be worth it. And guys like me don't get jobs. So I'm going to say that, I understand why many people would be for it, but guys like me, we would be hurt. We would become, like I said, too risky for employers if the standard is this. That if they suspect that I've been given some direction, I can't even imagine a situation where an independent contractor is completely free of all direction on a work site. I've built houses. I've done this for years. How is that possible? And now we're going to tell these guys that hired me, people like me, if we even suspect that you've given this guy direction, we're coming for you. I don't get hired. So there's at least one independent contractor who's worked in the state of Pennsylvania and in other states who's in this industry who would think that this would hurt my chances to get work on the side. So I'm going to be a no.
Thank you. Is there any other member want to be recognized? All right. Seeing none. Again, I just want to thank all the. Yeah, sure. Chairman Grove.
Thank you, Chairman. So, again, I will harp on this. There is one person in this room that was actually on the Joint Task Force. He is sitting in the audience currently. One person. And I bet that person, when reading this bill, would tell you that those recommendations from the joint report is not this bill. It's not this bill. The recommendations, even if there was a connection back, were changed, and a lot of stuff was added that was not in that joint task force report. So to say the joint task force didn't work, not true. It did work. It's just this bill ain't it. And again, I will harp on, we're now adding the Attorney General's office to prosecute private business. Think about that. Private business is going to get prosecuted by the Attorney General's office. Workers, like our good representative over here, could be in jail for just trying to earn a living. And Representative Barger, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is designed to shut down private business and small businesses who want to help out other businesses. I think that's the design. I think you perfectly laid that out, the facts of this. It's not about growing our economy. It's not about growing business. It's not about helping startup businesses. It's an ongoing issue with labor wars in this Commonwealth. We have enough issues with workforce and getting employees that I think we could put that to bed and just say, let's get people to work. So I think whether you're a union guy, gal, or a non-union guy or gal, what do you want to do? You want to go to work? You want to help your families? You want to take care of your kids? You want to afford a house? You want to live the American dream, right? That's what it's about. And unfortunately, we continually have this debate back and forth of an entity wanting to shut down another entity because it goes against what they're trying to do. And until that ends, we will continue to see more bills like this that are based on shutting down one sector of an economy, weaponizing and growing government, and doing nothing to actually support our workers. and help grow our economy. So I will be a no, urge my colleagues to be a no on this. And, always looking for that middle ground to see where we can meet. This isn't it, but the door is always open, Chairman. You know that. We'll be more than happy to sit down and work through something. I just don't believe this will even get through the Senate once again. And we'll be back here at some point, maybe next year, discussing the same thing and moving bills that just go to the Senate and die. But it is what it is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So let me just remind members again, the minority party has the ability to write legislation. So folks will know. I think there's a misconception out there that the majority party is the one that can put forth ideas. I think we heard it clearly from one of our members that we all know that misclassification is a problem, but we seem to only get solutions from one side of this equation. We welcome ideas. We welcome language. We welcome bills to be put forth so we can have that debate on misclassification. Because either we stand with workers or we don't. It's long past time that we continue to play this same game where we sit here and we criticize the party that puts forth an idea with no solutions coming from the other side, or we put forth our own ideas and allow us to have a real robust debate. And this other idea that the Attorney General does not get involved in private business is it's ridiculous argument. Folks embezzle money every day that gets prosecuted by an AG. Why are we sitting here pretending that wage theft is not a crime? Why should we sit here and pretend if you're stealing from your worker, you shouldn't be prosecuted? It's ridiculous. So we have the ability to actually do the thing that we all claim to be. I thought we were law and order here. What happened to law and order? Is that going out the window now? Are we no longer the law and order party? What happened to those morals that I've heard so often about stealing from workers? Oh, let me guess. The workers undocumented, so we can steal from those folks and let it not be a crime, because if we get caught, no one cares. The bill clearly says that if you are a repeat offender, you will be prosecuted. If you are a repeat offender, you can potentially be referred to the Attorney General's office. It does not say that a private business who makes a mistake the first time is going to be prosecuted. There's nothing in this bill, and there's no language in this bill that specifies that. These are the fictitious ideas that we put forth without any real debate around the facts. It's time for us to get factual again in this committee, in this building, and in this country, because we are continuously being under this illusion that somehow that we are doing the best thing for the people that we supposedly represent. I have yet to see it. I know we always find a silver lining not to vote for the worker, but today, again, is another opportunity for you to change course. So with that, Jonathan, please take the roll.
Dawkins?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes, by designation.
Donahue?
Yes. Yep.
Gerald? Green?
Yes, by designation.
Haddock? Kincaid?
Yes, by designation.
Krajewski?
Yes, by designation.
Mirsky? Miller? O'Mara?
Yes, by designation.
Scott?
Yes, by designation.
Siegel? Young? Grove?
No.
Anderson?
Designation, no.
Berger? Bernstein?
Designation, no.
Cooper? Diorsi? Ecker?
Designation, no.
Fink?
Designation, no.
Gleim? Jones?
Designation, no.
Reichard?
Designation, no.
Rossi? The bill passes as amended.
Thank you. House Bill 721 is reported and is amended from the House and Labor Industry Committee. And seeing no other business, we are adjourned. And just a reminder to members, next week we are in Pittsburgh. We have sent out the calendar of events we're going to be attending. So we'd love to see everyone on the committee out there next week. So thank you.